let's play what the president said yesterday, because it's important. We're also going to show you Dr. Deborah Birx, who is sitting there, and you can just see she is trying to not in any way acknowledge what the president is saying, because it is so ludicrous and dangerous, and she is not responding to at all, and letting the other people, scientists, actually interact with the president on this ludicrous idea. Let's just play what happened yesterday in case you didn't see it.
So I asked Bill a question that probably some of you are thinking of if you're totally into that world, which I find to be very interesting. So supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting.
We'll get the right folks who could.
Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful.
Mr. President, after the presentation we just saw about the heat and the humidity, is it dangerous for you to make people think they would be safe by going outside in the heat, considering that so many people are dying in Florida, considering that this virus has had an outbreak in Singapore, places that are hot and are humid?
Here we go. The new headline is Trump asks people to go outside. That's dangerous. Here we go. Same old group. You ready? I hope people enjoy the sun. And if it has an impact, that's great. I'm just hearing this, not really for the first time. I mean, there's been a rumor that, a very nice rumor that you go outside in the sun or you have heat and it does have an effect on other viruses. But now we get it from one of the great laboratories of the world, I have to say. Covers a lot more territory than just this. This is probably an easy thing, relatively speaking, for you. I would like you to speak to the medical doctors to see if there's any way that you can apply light and heat to cure. If you could. And maybe you can, maybe you can't. Again, I say maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm not a doctor. But I'm like a person that has a good you-know-what.
But, sir, you're the president.
Deborah, have you ever heard of that? The heat and the light relative to certain viruses, yes, but relative to this virus?
Not as a treatment. I mean, certainly fever
Yeah.
is a good thing. When you have a fever, it helps your body respond. But not as, I've not seen heat or light.
I think it's a great thing to look at. I mean, okay?
Respectfully, sir, you're the president, and people tuning into these briefings, they want to get information and guidance and want to know what to do. They're not looking for rumors.
Hey, Phil, I'm the president, and you're fake news. And you know what I'll say to you? I'll say very nicely, I know you well. I know you well, because I know the guy. I see what he writes. He's a total faker. So are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? It's just a suggestion from a brilliant lab by a very, very smart, perhaps brilliant man. He's talking about sun, he's talking about heat, and you see the numbers. So that's it. That's all I have. I'm just here to present talent. I'm here to present ideas, because we want ideas to get rid of this thing. And if heat is good, and if sunlight is good, that's a great thing as far as I'm concerned.
Sanjay, you brought this up. The medical, Gloria's right, the medical community, obviously it doesn't even take a medical degree to know, but yes, doctors, scientists are all saying, of course, this is ludicrous, please don't try this at home. Lysol put out a statement saying, don't use our products internally. But what's sad is it's actually not the president's immediate medical team or scientific team, because they are all scared of being removed or being sidelined or being sent into exile, like, Secretary Azar. I mean, how often have you seen him at the podium, or, sent into Siberia somewhere? The idea that, the nation's top scientists have to be careful about the facts that they present to the American people because they're afraid of and concerned of what the president is going to kneecap them, essentially. And I mean, that's dangerous in and of itself.
No question, Anderson. I mean, Ambassador Birx is one of the foremost HIV/AIDS researchers in the world. Dr. Hahn, FDA commissioner, was the head of the MD Anderson Cancer Center, one of the foremost cancer centers in the world. I mean, these are top-notch people who clearly knew exactly what was going on, and that this had absolutely no merit, was potentially not potentially, is dangerous to suggest that people could ingest or inject disinfectants into their body. I mean, it was painful, Anderson, to watch that video of Ambassador Birx, and I know her. I have great respect for her. It felt like you could see the internal dialogue going on in her head, and it's painful to watch. I mean, you almost got the sense that she was evaluating how do I handle this right here and now, short of getting up and walking out of the room. I mean, it's a real collision. We see these minor collisions sometimes between science and politics, as Gloria mentioned. Usually, the data, the evidence, the facts win out. I mean, evidence is evidence. But sometimes you see a major collision like this, and it's tough.
To her credit, in that video, she's not nodding her head, which, I mean, frankly, a lot of the other officials around the president, that's what they do. They, remember when he went to the CDC and he, said that anybody who wants a test can get a test. There were a lot of people just standing there nodding their heads when, in fact, that wasn't the case at all. And so, again, Gloria, to me, it's just sad to see the president of the United States, any president of the United States, but that the president of the United States, live on television, well, it was tape turn, so it was just moments ago, at a signing, just blatantly making up something, I think on the fly, because earlier the White House said nothing about it being a sarcastic comment to reporters, so they hadn't lined up their lies. They came up with a different lie. But this lie, right. The president, to watch him in real time just lie like a 5-year-old child who's been caught doing something and just makes up, when cornered, a ridiculous lie that everybody knows it's just a lie. I mean, it's just sad.
Well, it is sad, and I was actually talking to somebody this morning who worked for Donald Trump in Atlantic City, and he's watching all of this play out, and it's very familiar to him. And I said to him, how do you feel? And this is before we got this tape. I said, but how do you feel for the president who is spewing this ridiculous notion about disinfectants and
I just lost Gloria's feed. If we have the video, let's just play what the president just said. I think let me know if we don't have it yet. Okay, we're going to isolate just because it was a long, he talked about a number of different things, but we want to just try to isolate the section where he is now claiming that what he said was actually, as you know, to reporters and was sarcastic. Caitlin Collins, I mean, you witness this stuff on a daily basis, obviously, but it is rare to have, I mean, such both a comment that he made yesterday, which is both illogical, but to have one be so dangerous, and then just to have the ability to see him lie about it in real time the very next day.
And Anderson, what we're seeing play out here, where the president was musing yesterday like that, pondering aloud after this DHS official gave this report where they had studied this very closely, he said, talking about the half-life of the coronavirus. And the president then starts to wonder if that could be used in the body, not only talking about sunlight, obviously, but talking about disinfectants. That's what happens in these coronavirus task force meetings and the meetings that the president has with the doctors a lot of the times, where then he tries to kind of suggest some kind of possible treatment, some kind of way forward that the doctors often disagree with and have to find a way where they gently but bluntly try to correct the president. And we've seen this play out. And it's kind of surprising that this is just happening like this now, where it was such an awkward moment there in the briefing room yesterday, because you've seen the president and the doctors contradict each other before. Usually Dr. Fauci is the most willing to be blunt and contradict the president in real time there on the podium, as he's done when it comes to vaccines, a second wave of coronavirus, and with this yesterday where the president turned to Dr. Birx, and she didn't really offer much. She only said that she did not know of that as a treatment. for the coronavirus or any other viruses in the past, but she didn't really, emphatically say, actually, we don't really think that is something feasible. You saw what Dr.
Right.
Sanjay said, and just pretty clearly, this is not something that can be studied. And when the president suggested that to the senior DHS official, he said, that's not really something we're going to do. We're not going to look into whether or not this can be a treatment. We're just talking about what happens when on surfaces and in air. And the president, takes this, and he was very sensitive to criticism this morning of his remarks. That's why you saw the White House put out that statement earlier today, talking about the media, they said, taking him out of context. And then now, of course, this is where we've ended up.